Game Capture HD.
HD?
Yeah, that's what this particular box is. Elgato is the name of the company that makes it. I don't know if they make this particular one anymore. I think they've made newer devices. Any questions about the streaming? I think.
Still with the delay.
Oh, that's a great question. The question is, what's the delay? When you stream to any video place that is not specifically geared for auctions, right? So, not talking about video on ProxyBid or BidSpotter or HighBid or anything like that, because they prioritize no delay for obvious reasons. But anytime you stream to YouTube or Facebook, they prioritize quality. And so there is always a delay that's introduced there. So you would never want to use YouTube streaming or Facebook video, live video for an auction, because it can be as much as a minute or 2 minutes behind what's happening in real time, which for anything other than an auction, nobody cares about, right? But you want to be careful about that. And also this computer is taking it a while to process the signal that's coming from the camera through the box and into the computer. So that's why there is a delay in the feed. But here's I don't think this was up on the screen before it switched, but that's what this box looks like. And I will update this presentation and include a link to that game capture device. Okay. So now we'll talk about audio. We're going to talk about speakers and microphones and cables and then some mixers, and then the meat of this presentation and the fun part is where I get to demonstrate some effects that can make us better as auctioneers. So, several different kinds of speakers. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but it's important to know that not all speakers are made like others. Originally, back in the 70s, right, all the bands were lugging around all of these big, heavy speakers, and they'd lug around these heavy amplifiers, right? And the speakers needed an amp in order to operate. And so you plug your sound into this big old amplifier, and then there'd be a big fat speaker cable coming out of the amp going into the speaker. And recently, most everyone has been switching over to powered speakers, and these are speakers similar to this one that have the amp built into the speaker. So you actually have a power cord for the speaker, and you plug it in, and then you just give it a signal. And then further, closer to what we auctioneers use a lot of times are the portable speakers like this one. Actually, those have batteries in them, don't they? To where you don't even need to power them with a cord. You charge them, of course, but then you can go and put them on a pickup and drive around, and you don't even need power for them. So that's the portable speaker. It's got the amplifier and the battery built into the enclosure. And then this is something that I think is very underutilized in the auction industry, and that's a monitor speaker. We've all seen concerts where musicians have these, what they call 4 wedges. I think I've got pictures of these. Right, there's the old passive speaker. This is show and tell through Aaron's sound collection, right? So this is a passive speaker, probably made in the 80s. And on the back of it, you can see the only plug is a plug for a speaker cord that comes from an amplifier. There's no power, there's no mixer, there's nothing built into it, right? It's just a passive speaker. Here's an example of a powered speaker, a speaker that you plug in, and it's got the amplifier built into it. And your portable speakers, right? As auctioneers, we've seen these. They've got the mixer and the battery and all of that built into them. But here's the 4 wedges that I was talking about. You see these a lot of concerts where the musicians can hear themselves, right? How many of you at your auctions use a monitor? A couple of us. Good. Hey, that's more hands than I've ever seen when I ask that question as a percentage of the people here. So that's absolutely wonderful.
They're real useful.
They're incredibly useful.
Mark your voice out.
Exactly, because you want to hear yourself. So what at our auctions, when we had our live events, the rule was the auctioneer never got to control the volume, right? Because invariably, without a monitor speaker, the auctioneer wants to hear himself, so he doesn't burn out his voice. It's a very reasonable need to hear yourself, but you turn it up, but the speaker's facing the crowd, and so the crowd gets blown away. And there's nothing more uncomfortable than sitting at an auction when it sounds too loud. So this is a hot spot, and it's big in the picture, but it's about this big. And you can set it on just a little microphone stand. Where do we go here? You can set it on a microphone stand, so you can place it wherever you want to place it. but it's just there to keep you hearing yourself without burning your voice out so that the crowd can hear everything at a reasonable level. Yes, sir?
Have you had any problems with durability on those?
Durability. When we had this particular hotspot, we had it in our facility. We never took it anywhere outside of just where it was, and just set up on the podium for the auctioneer to control the volume, and so never had any problems with it. I suppose if you're taking it on the road and you burn through it. So if you had the luxury of configuring your own sound system and selling to a seated crowd, I would certainly encourage you to check into a monitor so that you don't have to worry about burning your voice out and you can hear it, and the crowd doesn't have to be blown away. Microphones. Let's talk about mics. Two different types of microphones. There are condenser microphones and dynamic microphones. Dynamic microphones are pretty common, especially in this industry. This is the Shure SM58, and it's pretty much the standard for vocal microphones for touring bands. It's kind of the baseline microphone. It's an example of a dynamic microphone. It does not need power. You just plug it in. It's usually less sensitive than a condenser microphone. It's very common for auctions. This type of mic, not necessarily the SM58, though. There are plenty of auctioneers that will use that particular microphone. There are mics that are more expensive that are called condenser microphones, and these actually need power, and so they will either have a battery in them, or you send a small voltage back through the cable to the microphone to power it. So where's my big mic? Over here. This is a condenser microphone. And so sometimes you can, remember our example earlier about walking into a gymnasium and they don't know how to work everything. You can plug it in and you can't get any signal and it's not working. If it's a condenser microphone, there's a power switch on the mixer that you have to turn on in order to get it to work. Sometimes it's called phantom power, and that's what it is called. And so that's what the condensers do. Now, they are a lot more common in studio. For podcasting, all your podcasters will probably have a condenser microphone. It's a USB mic that plugs into the computer. They're really, really sensitive. Not as common. So here's some examples of some microphones. This is a Heil PR40. It's an example of a studio mic. Very common in podcasting. That's what I use to record all my video, or all my commercials and voiceover work that I do. There's a SM57 and then the SM58. And the point is that not all microphones are the same, right? Your expensive microphones are going to perform a lot better than inexpensive microphones, but even microphones in the same price point can have wildly different frequency responses, right? This 57 mic is not a mic I would use for vocals, for somebody else's vocals. I personally like it for my vocals, but it has a really flat frequency response, meaning that it represents low frequencies the same as it represents mid-range frequencies and the same as it represents high frequencies, compared to the 58, which has a nice warm curve towards the bottom in the vocal range, which is why we use the 58 for vocals, because most vocals sound better on that. And they're about the same price, about 80 bucks, 90 bucks. Here's some examples. This is some condenser microphones. I showed you this one in the middle. It's the one that I have here. Here's I think this is the Blue Yeti, maybe not. It's common to see mics like this that are podcaster microphones that buy them and they plug them into the computer and they record podcasts with them. Here's a nice Neumann studio microphone. This is what I use when I go into the studio. Again, not all that common in auctions. Different microphone configurations, right? Your handheld or your headset. Handheld microphones, great for auctions. Your headset microphone's good for auctions. You've got the earpieces that we see in live stage performances, that kind of stuff. And lavalier microphones like this one. Probably not going to be good. If you guys like to go in and do a live auction with a clip-on lavalier mic, probably not, right? So remember that the microphone configuration varies based on application. You wouldn't record a commercial or a podcast with a lavalier mic, right? Microphone technique. This is a handle. This is not the way to hold a microphone. If you have to hold a microphone like this to sound good, you need to fix your sound system. Because that's the common excuse that I get from a lot of car auctioneers who say, well, that's the only way I can hear myself, that's the only way I can sound good. And the answer is, fix it. The microphone is not designed to respond correctly to your voice that way. Here's the other disclaimer. If you guys agree with everything that I say today, you are not paying attention. So if you have questions or you want to dispute some of the things, let's have a discussion about it, right? I wish I could buy microphones like this. When I run sound for guys, that would be great.
Aaron?
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for a situation where some of the big corporate wholesale car auctions don't allow you to, there's no control up there, to control all the sound inside, and it's a locked room, and they will not let you in. And you know,
Right.
those car auctions do hold life like
Right.
that, because the big Manheims and Odessas won't let you play with the sound, and you can't hear yourself, and so you end up doing that so you can hear.
I don't have a good solution for you. I'm sympathetic to the problem, and I get that that is the reason that a lot of guys will hold it like that. It's a chicken and the egg problem, right? Because everybody holds it like that, they have the sound set to compensate.
Yeah.
And so either they fix the sound so everybody doesn't have to do that, or if everybody all of a sudden didn't do that, then they could adjust the sound. Probably not going to happen. So that's, I get that challenge. But just remember that when you are at an auction like that, where that is what you have to do in order to hear yourself, make sure that that's not a habit that you then bring over and try and replicate at a big club contest for your state association.
I'm dying to know if you made that picture yourself.
No, I did not make that picture myself. I stole these. So I have great friends on Facebook, and I ganked all of these from my Facebook feed from my friends. I'm friends with a lot of pro audio guys, and there's some fun things that we have. So, cables and levels. We're not going to spend a ridiculous amount of time on this. I'm here for 2 hours, right? I've got an hour and a half left. Is that okay? I want to make sure I'm on time. So there are different levels. Your mic level, your instrument level, and line level, and then speaker level. So what I mean by this, remember I said that this dynamic microphone is not powered, right? When I plug it in and it sends, the signal, the only signal that is coming through here is being generated by the diaphragm in here going back and forth through a coil, right? And so the signal is not very strong in here. The signal coming out of a power amplifier going to a passive speaker is going to be enormous. And that's really the only thing I want you to remember, is that not all levels are the same. You can't take the output of a power amplifier and put it in a line input on a mixer without expecting some problems. So that's really what this is about, is just to recognize that there are different levels. Your phone output into a sound system, you're not going to need to turn it up nearly as high as a microphone, right? You've probably experienced that if you've ever played with microphones and running music into a system at the same time. There are different levels. Not going to spend a ton of time on this, but recognize there are also different cables for different purposes, right? We're all familiar with the XLR cable right here for microphones. This is a speak-on cable you might see occasionally, and that's really exclusively for power, high power applications. Coming out of an amplifier, going into a passive speaker. We see that a lot on the pro audio side, where these guys are running big speaker stacks and have big stacks of amps, and they use that because it's more contact than something like your standard 1/4-inch cable. So, I'm not going to, if you have questions about this or anything that's bugging you, I'm happy to talk about it, but it's not really all that important to us right now.
Aaron, just a quick question. For example, running powered speakers, do you see any benefit of using XLR over TRS?
Good question. The question is, do we see a benefit in XLR over TRS in the context of a powered speaker? In general, I like the XLR where and when I can use it. And that's because I believe that it's designed to reduce interference. You can run an XLR a lot longer than you can a standard 1/4-inch RPS or TRS cable. And so my rule of thumb is when I can use an XLR, I do. But if you've got a corded mic plugging into your speaker and you've got XLR on one end and quarter inch on the other, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine, as long as you're not trying to run it from here to that back corner. And then you just have to worry about interference. You might get some noise in the line from EM radiation. All right, here's the fun stuff. Different types of mixers. The old standalone mixer console. We've got a powered mixer, right, which is a mixer that has the mixer and the power amplifier in it. So you plug everything into it, and then it powers one of those passive speakers that we talked about earlier. It's got the amp built in. We're all familiar with the mixer that's built into the back of our auction speakers, portable speakers like this one. And then the newest thing on the stage is the digital mixer, which is what I'm using up here, right here.
Is that the X-Air?
That is an X-Air, yeah. And I'm controlling the sound today on the app on the tablet. I'm not just playing with the tablet up here, for those of you who are wondering, why does he keep looking at the tablet? Which is incredibly convenient, right? In the old days, for bands and live music, we'd have to run a big old snake to the back of the room, and there'd be a big console set up there, and there was, 100 pounds of cable from there to here, and now all we have to do is walk around with the tablet. It's so much easier, so much nicer. So, let's talk about effects. The other thing with this is, remember I talked earlier about, the auctioneer shouldn't necessarily have volume power, but if you're sitting at a podium and you want to make a change, imagine just being able to have to pull out your phone and make that change while you're selling without having to worry about, hey, come here, I want you to turn me up or turn me down or something like that, right? In the bands, in my band, we can have somebody walking around out front, and then our musicians on stage, and you remember the old days where we say, hey, I need more guitar in the monitors, right? All my guys have to do is pull out the app and adjust it themselves. So think about that at an auction. Your auctioneer can do it, your guys maybe the clerks can notice that it's not loud enough or it's too loud, and they can make changes back there without having to run around. Yes, sir?
So that feature is only available with the digital mixer to make those
Right.
adjustments. And what did you say that one is?
This particular mixer is an X-Air made by Behringer.
12 or 18.
This is the 18. They make a 12 that's cheap. It's like 250 bucks. Yeah. I didn't even know that until I was coming down here and doing some research, and that's a silly bargain. That's a really good bargain. Even if you have something like this that's got everything built into it, $250 to get all of these effects that I'm getting ready to talk about, that's a steal. I almost wish I wouldn't even brought this. We'll talk about this in a minute, but now there are hybrids. There are analog mixers that look like this, but have a digital component to them. My dream mixer is made by a company called Allen and Heath, and it looks just like this, but it has the ability to run the digital apps and everything as well, and the sliders are motorized. So if I make an adjustment here, the slider will move up and down on the stage. So I like that. I like the sliders myself, the tactile ability to just reach over and turn a knob. But having the ability to control everything with an app is incredibly powerful too. Problem is they're a lot more expensive than just the X-Air.
Aaron, if I can interrupt you,
Yeah.
and I apologize,
No,
but
please.
I want to take the opportunity, since we just spoke about this particular item. This X-Air mixer, another feature that it has that I think a lot of auctioneers will probably like, it has the ability to plug in a USB drive directly into it and record your auction as you're doing it. So it will record your audio. The other thing that I wanted to say, I wanted to take the opportunity to do is I'm going to take this opportunity to promote Jeffrey McDaniel that's here from Guitar Center Pro. You can get this from him, and I'm going to tell you guys, I buy my audio equipment from him, and I can promise you that you will not beat his prices. His prices are quite a bit lower than you can get them anywhere else. So Jeffrey's here, he's one of our exhibitors, so I just want to take a quick second to plug him. Y'all go by and see him because he can help you with getting this kind of stuff. So, sorry to interrupt, but
No,
I thought
that's
that was
fine.
a good opportunity.
That's fine. Guitar
plug
Center
this.
also carries those alto speakers. We had a picture of an alto system before, and I've been incredibly happy with those speakers as well. But yeah, they carry the Behringer line, they carry the altos, they carry pretty much everything I've got up here. All right, so here are some effects that we're going to talk about, and I will show you how you can use these to improve the way you sound at your auctions. Talk about gain and volume, EQ, compression, a limiter, and a gate. All right. The difference between gain and volume. Sometimes you'll see a mixer that's got both a gain knob and a volume knob on it, or a gain knob and then the volume sliders. And essentially, without digging into too much irrelevant detail, the gain is the input level and the volume is essentially the output level. And so a lot of times when I'm getting everything set right, I will put the volume knob right in the middle and then use the gain to get it close, and then use the knob, the volume knob, to get everything just right. You can kind of think of it as a coarse adjustment and a fine-tuning adjustment. Again, very overly simplified, but that's for all our intents and purposes, that's what you need to remember here.
Aaron?
Yes, sir.
So on my wireless headset, I have another within like where the battery compartment is, and whether or not to call it a gain or a volume right now, I'm not really sure.
Right.
But I've got that, and then you have the gain on the amp board, and then you have the volume, and I'm constantly trying to show some type of balance between the three. Is there a process where you use one, then go to the next, and then go to the
Right,
next?
that's a great question. So he's got on his belt pack transmitter, there's a little teeny tiny knob that you would adjust. It adjusts the sensitivity of the wireless transmitter. And in general, the goal with that is to get it set as loud as possible without introducing any kind of distortion. Right, so you make sure that you're not going to have any distortion from your speaker, and then you get that as loud as you can without it peaking or distorting or being garbled, because you want that as hot as you can. And then go down the chain. And like I said, I would set as an easy way to do it, set your volume at 50% or at 0, depending on if you've got a slider or a knob. Get it to where you can adjust it, and then get your gain to where it's about as loud as you need it to be, and then you can make adjustments from there. So that's
start with the wireless of the headset.
There's not necessarily a one and then another, but you just need to remember, get your sound close, and then adjust your headset so that it's as loud as you can be without introducing distortion or garbling, and then you know that it's set right.
Yeah.
And then do the others.
Okay.
Obviously, if your others are set incorrectly, they could be creating a distortion, and so that's why I said you want a relatively low volume on the speaker while you're getting your belt pack set, and then you can proceed from there. And that's actually what this
I was just about
concept
to
is.
mention clipping.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody know what clipping is, and we actually had that earlier. Let's just demonstrate that real quick here. So I'm going to turn this volume down so that it's just barely on. Then I'm going to turn this up here, and you can hear clipping. That's what I'm talking about with distortion, right? Everybody's heard that. We don't like it. It's no fun. But that's what we're talking about with clipping. So that's the clipping. I'm going to fix it now. Sorry about that.
You did that on purpose.
No, I haven't done that on purpose since I was in high school. Only less than once. Back to where they were here. Okay, there we go. Back. That's back. Okay. And then white noise is the opposite problem, right? You've got low, and you hear the shh because something is not set right. So we want to reduce white noise, we want to eliminate clipping, and have a good, clean, strong signal. That's our goal. All right, equalization. And this is simply the adjustment of the way that the sound equipment, usually a microphone, handles the different frequencies in the signal, right? Your lows and your highs. We want to shape the sound. There are two different types of EQs. There's a graphic EQ, which is what this is. An example, it's a picture of, you've got a high, a mid, and a low, which is, it's useful, but it's not nearly as nice as the parametric EQ, which lets you adjust where those frequency dips and peaks are in the sound. Okay, so let's take a look at EQ. Now I'm gonna bring up the computer version of the control for this sound system, and I don't want you guys to be intimidated. I will show you where to look.
I've got this, like I say, it's intimidating.
Yeah, it gets absolutely intimidating. What's that?
Stress level with the seven.
Yeah. Don't be intimidated. I will show you what we're talking about here. So, this is the EQ for the microphone for this lapel that I'm currently using. And it's flat, it's off. And so, I want you guys to look simply up here at the graph. Ignore everything else. Okay? So I'm going to turn this on and we'll see. So there's the flat sound. Right? And by flat, I just mean we're not making any adjustments to it. And so you can also see, oops, what happens if we pull this out down here. And I'm going to also take out the low end. As auctioneers, we always say, hey, I want my voice to be big and boomy, but you're not going to hear anything below about 80 hertz. Your human voice isn't really able to generate anything that low. And when you are sending a flat signal to your speaker's having to work in case you hear pops, right? Or anything that's not your voice. Wind is also making that speaker work really hard. And so if we can take out everything below what your voice can generate, it's easier on our equipment. And so that's why I'll bring in this low end. And you want to bring it in, notice that your sound is becoming tinny, right? And so then you want to back it off. And so we also want to, a lot of times I find that for me, my preference, again, opinions with Aaron, but I like to also enhance the top end as well. And so we can go in and we can run a shelf up here and raise the top end just a little bit. And I think that sounds better than with no EQ at all. Right, here it is without any EQ, and then when I add this and turn it on, it sounds like this. Right, and that's just on the wireless, or that's just on this lapel mic. Let's take a look at it on the handheld here. Remember I talked earlier about different microphones costing different prices and performing better. Turn this on for a second. So this is a Samson R11, and when I was in high school 20 years ago, bought a 3-pack of these for 60 bucks. So it's old and it was cheap at the time. Let's hear what it sounds like. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Not horrible. It'd be usable, but it sure doesn't sound good. I don't think it sounds as good as the lapel. So let's take a look at this EQ here. I wish there was a way I could make that full screen, but I'm not entirely sure. So remember, just look at the curves. So there it is, without anything on. So we'll turn the EQ on, and then we'll put this low cut in. Remember, we'll bring this low end up until it sounds like it's becoming tinny. Right there, you can hear it sound tinny. So we'll bring it back just a little bit. And a lot of your cheaper microphones and cheaper speakers will need to have some of the mid-range pulled out. You hear the term muddy in the context of sound, and what that means is it's simply in the middle of it is just too much. And so we'll find that and we'll bring that down something like that, and then we'll put the shelf in, and that mic sounds a lot better now, doesn't it? Right? So here it is with nothing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll put this on. Here's what it sounds with the EQ on. Everybody hear the difference? Pretty marked, isn't it? And all we're doing is we're adding some equalization to our signal. Let's try a different microphone. Yeah.
You're doing stuff over there, making this change.
Yes.
What are you doing over there?
I wish there was a way I could show it.
Just turn it around.
Yeah, so let me make this as bright as I can. So here's what my control looks like. And it's really just that top left portion.
Okay.
But let me turn this back on. But I can take that and just drag it around, and I can make that curve wider. It's really, really easy to do that. Easy to make changes here, and it's much more intuitive. That's why I'm doing it here and not on here. You can do everything with the computer, but it's so much easier on the app. But I can't put the app on the screen.
The app comes
Easily.
with the program, or do you have to buy that?
No, you don't have to buy the app. It comes with the mixer. Or I mean, you could download the app right now, but it doesn't do you any good unless you have the hardware. So that's why they make the app free.
So that comes with it. That's what add tablet.
No, the tablet doesn't come with it. You would have a tablet or a phone or your iPad or whatever,
okay.
and you just install the app.
That's just a device.
Yeah, this is just a device. It's an off-the-shelf Android tablet is all this is.
Okay.
So let's look at another microphone. All right, we looked at this is the expensive condenser mic. This one's about $250. So we'll take this, load that off.
What mic is that?
This is the Shure Beta 87C.
So that's like the newest one.
It's a nice microphone. Yeah, this is what I use for my shows and when I sing. They call it hypercardioid, which means that it picks up only what's in axis, and when I get off axis, it really doesn't pick up anything. And so it's incredibly directional, right? It picks it up when I'm right into it, and if I'm off just a little bit, it really doesn't pick up much at all. And it's extremely directional because they say it's geared for in-ear monitors, which is what I use when I play. I use the monitors in-ear instead of the floor wedges. So it's specifically designed for that. But it's just a really nice condenser microphone. And so this is what it sounds like flat, right? I think it sounds better than the other one did even after we added the EQ. And so let's take a look at turning the EQ on for this one. So we'll turn it on. We'll have the low cut. Bring that out. We've already got. So we'll need to bring that down a little bit. So this is what it sounds like. Now I had a question. Last time I presented this course in Colorado, I had a question. Is the EQ for the microphone for the speaker? And the answer is yes. Right? Because your sound is a combination of the source and the output. So if I had a different speaker up here, the EQ curve would probably be different for each one of the different microphones. And so a lot of times you can compensate for the room, right? Last night, it sounded good, but to me, last night could have benefited greatly if we'd have taken that 200 hertz range and brought it down, because there just seemed in that room last night, I'm not faulting the sound system last night, but in that room it felt like there was a set of frequencies around what I think was 200 hertz, that if we'd have dropped that out, it would have sounded a lot better for pretty much everybody. Right? So sometimes EQ can be appropriate for the room.
Aaron, I have a question.
Yeah.
Realizing that adjusting sound is a very complex process, but like on the low, you said bring your low up to a tinny point and then back it down a little bit. For the low, the mid, the high, do you have some kind of standard rule of thumb like that?
And you're right, it's incredibly complex, and I'm not even a pro at it. I just know enough to be dangerous. And so the question is there a rule of thumb that would guide you? And that's kind of what I've been doing up here. The first thing I do is I bring the lows out until you notice it, right? And that's more of a safety feature for the speakers anyway. If you drop the microphone, you don't want that low frequency coming through at a loud level through your speakers. You don't want to make your speakers work too much, too terribly hard to produce those sounds that aren't coming from your voice. So that's why we bring out the lows. And then I usually will find a notch to bring out of the middle, to find wherever that is. And actually, and I'm disappointed that it doesn't show on the screen here, but if you can see, as I'm talking, there are blue lines that are coming up on the tablet display that show me where those frequencies are. And so if there's a ring, right, sometimes you'll be in a mic and there's a hum at a certain frequency. Well, you can see that on here, and you can find a point and you can take that out of the mix. Right? In the studios, a lot of times when you mic a drum, there'll be a ring, and they'll call that ringing out. Taking the ring out of the drums by just pulling that frequency down. Right? But most of the vocal mics will benefit from finding a notch somewhere in the middle and probably rolling that out. Maybe you've got a sound system that doesn't need that. I'm not saying it's a rule of thumb that you always follow, but most of the time, that's step 2. And then step 3, for just about any system, is going to be, in my opinion, bringing the highs up. I'm doing it all on the wrong channel here, so you can't see. Most everything will benefit from running a high shelf of some kind, right? Just to make it crisp, to make you be able to understand the consonants.
And if you weren't using a digital representation like this, you're just on an analog where you've got your low, your mid, and your high.
Right.
So the low, I can hear it, bring it up to that tinny point, back it off, and then when I go to my mid and my high, kind of what am I?
Yeah. So that's the. I don't know. the switch back over to, well.
And if I'm getting you off track, please.
Now, remind me, I'm gonna actually leave that alone for now. But remind me of your question when I get back to the slide deck, because I'll go back to that and I will show you. In general, most of the time, you can roll it, you can pick that low and roll it off. Because most of the time that low knob is around 80 hertz, and that's usually around where your voice can't make those sounds anyway, and if it can, it's not something we want to be amplifying. So I would roll that 80 hertz pretty much down. The problem is the mids and the highs. A lot of times they're fixed at frequencies that aren't necessarily good to help us. And so when you have just 3 knobs, I mean, adjust it to where it sounds good to you and hope for the best.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
What is, I did a deal the other day, and I brought my headset, and I plugged it in, and the headset has a plus and minus on it, you know.
For tone? For volume?
For volume.
Okay.
Okay. Well, when I would walk forward between the speakers, I'd have to stand back. What's going on there?
So that's feedback, right? And that's what happened to me earlier when I got too close to this speaker, is feedback. And so that's something that you absolutely have to worry about.
Would you want the volume probably on your headset down as far as possible and have them bring it up on the volume on the mixer?
No. So the question is, do you turn your headset volume down and turn the volume up on the mixer? No. Any volume, wherever, regardless of where your levels are, it's going to generate feedback if you put the microphone in front of the speaker. And there's not a good way around that. In general, like we talked about earlier, you want your headset mic volume to be probably 3/4, and then adjust it on the sound. Because if your headset volume is low and you crank it up on the sound system, a lot of times you'll introduce white noise, which is the hiss that comes in because your signal is so low, you're having to turn everything up, and when you turn everything up, so does the background noise. So that's why you want to have your input solid, and then use the speaker to adjust. Yeah.
I have a question on the X-Air. We just started running the X32, which is probably the best board I've ever got to use ever.
Yeah.
What I love about it though is that I can set a scene or a channel or whatever and lock it down. And then so if my dad comes in there and twists a knob, it can just go back and bring it back.
Right. So one of the benefits, but think of it in this context. Let's say you've got several different bit callers, each with his own microphone, right? And so with this board comes the ability to save settings. And so you simply save a channel, you save it as you, and your next guy comes in and you get it dialed in, and you save it as him, and the third guy, right? And so each time you switch microphones, you can just say load preset, and everything goes back to where you have it dialed in. So you don't have to worry about
That
making those
sounds
changes.
great. Now I know this, especially for a lot of people, this platform here looks incredibly confusing. But I will tell you that the bearing ring system, that X32 we just got, is probably the most comprehensive layout. When you actually start using it, it just makes sense. It really took about an hour and a half to work all the guys through it, and now they're using it like
I really wish that I had all of the stuff necessary to just throw my tablet screen up here, because it's so much more simple than the computer interface. Now this is incredibly powerful, but everything that you would need to do, you can do with the app on the Android or the iOS. So thank you for the testimonial. It looks, and I get that it looks complicated, but it really isn't once you start using the app. So let's move into our next topic. And I'm going to just skip the presentation for now, and we'll just talk about it. So the next thing that I want to talk about is compression. Compression is something that I think is incredibly underutilized in the auction industry and has an incredible value. So for that, I need this microphone. So especially in the context of, I'm going to start using this. So in the context of having different auctioneers, and especially right in the contest, we have different contestants that come in with different mic techniques, different volume levels, right? We've got somebody that comes in and, hey, ladies and gentlemen, and then we've got people who will walk up. And I'm not saying that, either is horrible. Ideally, if you're using a microphone, basic mic technique, right, is talk into the mic, keep it about that far from your mouth, and use it and hold it down here and blocking and tackling and using a microphone, but not everybody does that. And so how do you, if you're in charge of setting sound and you've got different bid colors at your auction, how do you handle that? And how do you handle the fact that, sometimes we get auctioneers that want to be really, really loud, and really quiet, but we don't want to have to worry about them ruining our speaker, making our audience mad or whatever. And so what compression does is it takes the dynamic range out of the signal, right? So right now, you guys can hear me now, I'm just started talking, right? And if I get up really here and really loud, it's there. Well, what happens? We look at compression. So I'm going to turn the compressor on, and I'm going to pull this down. So now what happens? It's pretty loud when I'm even whispering in it, right? But I can get up and it's adjusted, right? Everything's adjustable. So we'll pull that gain reduction down a bit. All right. 1, 2, right? So I can get in here and I can yell really, really loud into the microphone, and it didn't hurt it. I can also whisper. And what's that level coming out of the microphone, or coming out of the speaker? It's uniform, right? So we can get contestants who talk into the mic like this. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Aaron Travis from Sharon, Kansas. Or they can get right in there. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Aaron Travis from Sharon, Kansas. And we don't have to worry about our speaker getting hurt. Now, it doesn't sound great right now because I haven't adjusted it and dialed it in for the speaker, but the concept is there, right? We get uniform volume output regardless of the level of input signal. You have a question?
As a testimonial to that, I find myself at a benefit auction, whenever I get that real big number we're shooting for, getting very excited, and it protects me from myself. And so even if you're using only one auctioneer,
even if it's just you,
I think compression, if it doesn't have compression, I'm not interested in it.
good testimonial right there, and I couldn't agree with you more. Even when I set up for an outdoor benefit here and there and everywhere, and every now and then, and boy, it's an incredibly powerful tool. It's an incredibly powerful tool because you want everybody to hear everything you say, but there's a difference in intensity, right? You can be really quiet and you can appeal to somebody, right? You can use that voice, you can whisper in it, and it's still loud. And you can then talk and be loud, and you don't have to worry about a big volume change. And so you can vary that intensity without varying the volume. Does that make sense to everybody? Pretty cool. And again, I think it's very underutilized in most of our auction scenarios. Now, we've set this up though, but what happens when, hey, why don't you talk to that buyer over there? I think he's a scoundrel and I don't want him to register. All right, you guys heard that, right? So, there's something else that I want to tell you about, and it's called a gate. It's called a noise gate. And so what this does, I think the gate's actually on. All right, there we go.
Aaron, can I stop you for
Yeah.
just a second? I just want to make sure I understand the compression.
Sure.
Because I totally get what you're saying as a benefit auctioneer. So is the compression up or down when you're saying that the volume, whether we're whispering or whether we're loud?
Right, so the question is it up or down? Compression is on.
Just on.
And again, and there's an amount of compression. And so I don't know that it's up or down. I think that you add compression. And the way that works is, let me go back here to the compressor. I think it represents.
And do you have to have one of these fancy rigs to have the compression?
No, you don't. That's a good question. Do you have to have a fancy rig to have compression? Now, I would argue that the cost of the lowest model of the Behringer, which is like a 4-channel, or it's a 12-channel, but it lets you plug in 4 different microphones, 4 different XLR cables into it, and then your music and computers and whatever. And so it's plenty for an auction scenario. The cost of $250 makes a lot of sense because you can buy hardware devices like this particular device, which is a compressor, but it just does compression, and it's, I don't know, $80, $100. So, because of all of the additional features, I would recommend getting something like the low-end X-Air. But you add compression, and the amount of compression you add will reduce the volume level output. So I would never use this for music, right? So singing is going to need different compression settings than auctioning or being an MC, right? All of them are going to require different tweaks, and it's just something that you have to play with. So let's talk about a noise gate. So yeah. What's that? Couple minutes for break. Okay, we are right at 9:30. Let's take 5 or 10 minutes, and we want to make sure we get through the commercial building here shortly. But we'll come back and talk about a break. So about 10 minutes. Come back at 9:40.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
You know, so my XR12 very quickly broke into.
Oh, really?
Hey, I mean, I've called, not mainly just getting a hold of anybody so I can get more than their parents not very good. In fact, I'm on hot chat. Yeah.
I'm surprised. Did you look on? I mean, it's just like it's something.
The joint, yeah.
So you can unscrew it.
Yeah.
Have you tried eBay?
No.
That'd be my first. I'd be surprised if you could find something nice.
Yeah, it'll work.
Two questions. X32, is that what that is?
This is the X18.
So he's got a small mixer up there.
Is it that mixer?
Yeah.
Like the Bose mixer? I am personally not a big fan of Bose.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend it. Now, having said that, I know that it does all these things. I know that it has compression, I know that it has gate, and all of that. And if you want something simple, it might be.
I play a little acoustic guitar, and I play a little gig, and the guy that we play with has got this system. And I'm looking at if I'm going to buy something, what would be comparable to where I can take it if I have a contract with them, like hey, sound, as you well know, playing music is a totally different setup.
Right.
And I like this system.
Hey, if you like the system, I've heard a lot of acoustic guys play through that tower system.
It's good for a room this size.
You don't need cymbal crashes or kick drums, and so you don't need the highs and lows. That might be a good option for you.
Then my next question is I do contract. So a lot of times sound's already set up. They got a band, like benefits there, the band's already set up. I would like to start bringing my own mic. So what would you recommend?
I would look at the Beta 58. It is a step up in quality, but it's essentially the same design. It's not a condenser, and if you're taking your own mic to different places, you don't want a condenser mic.
You don't.
Because they will require power, and not everybody's going to have that phantom power turned on their systems. So you definitely want a dynamic microphone, and it'd be tough. This would work fine. You know, I don't know what you want to spend. This is a $100 mic. The Beta.
Is that what they were auctioning off last time?
No.
Okay.
No, they were auctioning off $50 mics.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I didn't.
It's like that one up there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be excited.
That's a Beta 58.
That's what I would recommend. This is the SA. The Beta 58 would be probably an excellent choice. Yeah, and especially and I like these too. You know, if you're ever going to be outside or in the wind, or you are dealing with other options.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you were coming in, plugging in somebody else's, you would do a line out from this to the house sound? So, like, you're going to a benefit auction setup, and you're not providing the sound. All you're doing is trying to make sure your stuff sounds okay. So, if you were to take probably the smaller one of these two, what are you running out from this to their order?
It'd be an XLR. That's what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm doing right here.
Okay.
Right. This is not my speaker. This is one that's here, and I'm just sending them an XLR out. It just plugs into the input on the speaker, and set it to go. And I think that I would guess the 12, the 12 would probably be smaller. And this has rack ears on it.
Mm-hmm.
So you take those rack ears off, and it's really not that big.
No.
Anyway. So.
No. Not at all. Cool.
But it's pretty amazing little box.
It is pretty cool.
And I'm really not here to be a hardware salesman, but gosh, it's tough not to evangelize this.
Mm-hmm.
for the price performance on something like that.
I still have a really old Peavey mixer. Still use it, yeah. Now, do you ever would you take and hook these to shoot the wireless signal to the speakers? You should put that up pretty close to the speaker, so you're on the cable.
You'd have to have it within cable distance. They do make, Alto makes a wireless signal system. I've never used it.
The wires are much better than
You're gonna have to have it physically plugged into, it takes power.
It takes power, yeah. Plug somewhere.
Close to the wall. Well, your speaker's probably gonna need to be close to the wall. Now,
It depends on a big room. I'll have speakers, I'll send the wireless out and relay them back sometimes because they're way, 6 or 8 big speakers around the room.
they're all in the same wireless channel though.
Yeah, well, sometimes, yeah. Depending on how far, if it's really big, sometimes one speaker will set it off to another with a little body pack.
Yeah.
If it's too far away.
Okay, so that's kind of what I was wondering.
Yeah.
It might be Alto, the signal transmitter.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. You have to worry when you get too big and too
You get the
far
echo.
about and so like the pro guys, the guys that run sound for the ball drop in New York City, wherever they have what they call delay stacks, and it's actually a signal that will delay the speakers in front.
So the back will be all together.
So that you don't hear any echo, you hear it all at the same time. And yeah, it delays the speakers.
Yeah, thank you.
That's complex and way above my pay grade.
We'll have junior college and junior high school. One on the yeah. It's new territory for us.
We having a great day.
Pretty good.
It is. This software that
In every stage he's been, I really thought my kids would be.
Yeah, I do it for profit. So I do paper bidding on it. Well, certain block times we start online, and then we can actually close the auction, spin the auction, and some of it we just enter everything on the system. They put pictures, and we just close the paper sheets. We generate two sheets with it. We got the paper sheets. And then when people check in, we just scan their picture. Yeah.
He did all this and now they're just good.
I spent 31 years in Texas Instruments designing integrated circuits. Retired from there.
So that meant they didn't have
The dedicated gift.
There you go.
Everybody, take my look. That is so cool. I did not know they made a little bitty system like that.
They make a smaller one too. They make a 12.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's got 4 XLRs in and this Friday night.
Because see, inside my auction barn, we don't, we need 3 channels. That's it.
Right.
I mean, that,
Yeah. So it has all the same features as your channel. $250 is all for that 12.
See, we use a lot of times we use our portable in there, but then you're constantly using that thing, the battery's always charged, and it just causes problems. And so for that, and for the money, my portable is, I think, $1,000, And so, and then it doesn't really matter. You can use, probably better to use passive speakers, I guess. I don't know, what do you recommend?
I just get a set of powered speakers. I like the Alto stuff that.
Alto's pretty good.
Whatever.
But see, I've got a 100 by 100 metal building, which sound is tough to do anyway, and I just sprayed a bunch of foam, you know, the foam insulation, and so it's better, so it's not like you can get perfect sound anyway.
You can get a couple of powered 12-inch alto speakers for $600 a pair.
Oh.
Anyway, I
That's really cool. I bet you have one of those. I bet I picked one up on my own. For the money and stuff.
There's your guy to get it from right there.
All right.
Don't even stop at Guitar Center and call him. I'm telling you, his prices are better than what you can get in the store.
Well, I wish I'd have met him last week. I just spent 20 grand at the Guitar Center in Albuquerque.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we bought a new system for one of the churches. It's kind of one of our nonprofit.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, this guy, Jeffrey, is fantastic. And I mean, literally, like, I called him. I do all the announcing for my daughter's soccer.
Okay, right there.
And her varsity team. And I was running into some problems with the speakers there. And I called, we have a company in Ennis where I live called Atlas Sound. Now, Atlas Sound makes MTX, and they're more for commercial application type speakers, but they also make stadium ones and stuff like that. So anyway, so I called them and they donated me a couple of stadium ones. So, but I was trying to figure out with the existing equipment we had if it would work, this, that, and the other. And I called Jeff and was like, throwing questions at him. He was like, yeah, this will work. This will,
We're right at 9:40. Come back in. I've got a lot of cool stuff to show you.
Yeah.
Please find your seats.
Come on in, guys. And gals.
Almost got yourself.
If you'll do me a favor, until I get I've got a set of Jeff's cards here. So if you don't class over whatever it takes to mark them.
All right, come on back, folks. We're going to get started. If you're interested in upgrading your hardware, Wes has some cards for your sponsor from Guitar Center, for Jeff up here, if you're interested in contact information. And again, it's not just Guitar Center, it's Guitar Center Pro. They deal in professional applications, so you want to definitely give him a call to get some pretty solid price breaks over what's on the rack. Okay, so when we left, we were talking about the problem of, off-mic conversations that the crowd ends up hearing, right? Which I know I've definitely had plenty of that you maybe wish weren't over the mic. So how do we solve that? And the solution is called a noise gate. And what a noise gate does is it prevents any signal below a threshold, right? It's pretty simple. So it has to be above a threshold in order for it to be triggered. So again, if you look up here on the top left, and all you need to worry about, where's my laser? This right here is all you need to be looking at. See this little dial right here? That's our threshold. So let me turn the gate on. So the gate's on. So anything, make sure, yeah, open the gate, let them out, walk boys. All right, so we set that gate high and nothing's coming out, right? So we want to, but you can see where the sound level is, and all we do is we roll that back, and now it's there. So nothing's coming out until I'm right in and the sound level is above that threshold. So anything that's off mic is not picked up, right? Helps with wind noise, helps with a lot of things. As soon as you get over that threshold. Now, you've got some fine-grained controls on this as well, just like anything else. You can, right? So you can mitigate the on again, off again, right on the border.
So, Aaron, I got a question.
Yeah.
That just brings up an interesting question. So, I recently purchased a new QLXD Shure wireless system, and I was at a venue the other night, and I noticed a couple of times that I felt like I cut out. Now, I was not to say that I couldn't have been dealing with some sort of interference, but it's doubtful because I had scanned for best frequency beforehand. Is it possible that they had my gate set at a certain point, and because of me moving around and this, that, and the other, that maybe it was simply due to where the gate was set and not?
It's possible, it's unlikely. with the Shure system, it's a digital signal, and so as you move around, you either have signal or you don't. And so I would attribute that more to a wireless cutting out than it falling below a gate. I don't, because your signal cutting out would cause that, but unless you were walking around and whispering, and that's when you couldn't come over the system now. But that brings up a really great point in the context of wireless systems. A lot of your wireless systems are going to have some degree of compression and a gate built in, or at least that's what I've found in my experience. They don't advertise that, they don't say that, but most of the wireless systems I've used have, to some degree, some kind of volume leveling and gate built in. Now, you can't adjust it or anything like that, and maybe it's just the nature of the way that wireless systems work, but I have found that there's some degree of those features inherent to wireless systems. So if you're using a wireless mic, you may not need as much compression, but I've always been happy when I've gone in and added some more. Anybody have questions on the gate? You see why it would be valuable at your auctions?
The gate and the leveling, is that kind of the same thing?
Two different things,
It is.
right? You've got compression, which takes your level and it makes a consistent level output of the speaker. And then the gate is what keeps conversations off mic from coming through the speaker.
Oh, that's,
Yeah. So, and you can see that on anything that's below that dial doesn't come out, but when I get up above that dial, it's going to come out of the speaker. Right, and that's, like I said, that's adjustable. We put it way up, and then it's nothing there. Now, that's the problem, though, is that when you get auctioneers who don't know there's a gate on, I was running sound for the Kansas contest here a few years back, and had an auctioneer that got up there and just didn't get above the gate. And is this thing on? And so it can introduce problems. So make sure that if you're using some of these fancy effects, your bid callers know and are aware of them, because they can be really powerful, especially if you know that they're on and how to use them. Make sense? Okay. Any questions about the effects that we talked about? We talked about equalization, compression, and a noise gate. Yeah.
This is kind of off topic, but I've got an EV mic.
Okay.
It's got a switch up by the head.
Mm-hmm.
It's got it's not an on-off switch. It's got a light,
Yeah.
light flat. What is that?
So that's a shelf.
Okay.
And what that is, you remember, and there's one on the back of this camera mic too, and that's a low frequency roll off. So when you turn that on, it dumps out the low frequencies that we were talking about earlier. And so it's like having a hardware switch to take that low end out. And so I would, for vocal applications, I mean, obviously play with it and see if you like it one way or another, but I would say it's probably going to sound better with it on.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. But if you were miking a guitar with it, or miking something else, some instrument, you'd want to turn it off as long as there was no wind, so you'd get a more accurate representation of the instrument. So that's what that switch is for. All right. Any other questions about any of the effects that we've been talking about? Shift gears to the, let's create some commercials. I mentioned earlier, we're auctioneers, and we like to have the signature sound. So it would make sense to me that we would want, when we are buying radio commercials, buying airtime, it might as well be our voice that's representing our company, right? So we'll talk about some software here. Very recently, like 2 days ago, I learned that one of my favorite audio recording packages has now been made free. And I'm big on promoting free software and free tools because I don't think we should have to spend a ton of money to go and be able to do these things. Audacity is the free and open source product that has been kind of the default for free tools. Today I'm going to show you something different called Cakewalk by BandLab. Cakewalk was actually discontinued when Gibson guitars the parent company filed for bankruptcy. They fired all their developers, and those of us who were using Cakewalk were very saddened. But recently, it was spun out under a new company called BandLab, and so they make a free software. And I actually was unable to get Audacity to work for recording this morning when I was setting up, so that's why we're going to try this new one. But it too is free, and so that's what I'm going to show you. But the point here is that there is free software available for you to do high-quality recording and make your own radio commercials, right? Takes a microphone, and you can either go and buy one of those USB microphones that plugs into your computer, or you can take a nice microphone. Let's say you just don't want to spend extra money, so you get yourself a nice Auctioneer mic and you want to use it on your computer. It takes a recording interface now. As mentioned earlier, the XR doubles as USB recording interface, so I've got a USB cable from this into the mixer over here, and that's what we're going to use to record. If you don't have this, you can buy a little recording interface to plug into your computer for well under $100. So again, it's not expensive. Okay. And then once you have your, let's say, a 30-second radio commercial made, and it's running on the radio, well, why can't we make a video commercial out of that as well? A lot of auctioneers take video of the things that we're selling. Let's take those videos and mash them together, use the audio that we've already recorded, and then we've got something we can share on Facebook and YouTube. So that's what we're going to show you today. I'm going to show you using Windows Movie Maker. It is no longer provided by Microsoft. It still works, and there are still downloads of it available. It comes with Windows 7, but if you've got a newer computer, it did not come with your computer. If you would like a download link, I'd be happy to give you a place where you can get that. I would encourage you to invest in one of the video editors. You know, under $100 will buy you a pretty decent video editor that will do all of the things today. But again, I'm not going to show you something that costs money. So we'll show you something that's free, and we're going to use Windows Movie Maker.
What would you use for Apple products? iMovie?
Probably. I have no experience with that, but I understand that iMovie will do all of the things that I'm about to show you. Okay, so we're going to record a radio commercial. And for this, I need a volunteer. We're going to, be thinking, I'm going to have somebody come up. We're not going to use Aaron's voice on this. We're going to have Doug. He can volunteer. So, first thing is write the copy. Right? Now, we could go down a big rabbit hole and talk about some of the things in the AMM course about writing copy that promotes our items rather than the auction company, that promotes customer action, something that's compelling and engaging and all of that. I'm going to save a little time, and we're just going to use something that I whipped out here. But I don't want to trivialize the importance of writing the copy, right? Writing the words, something that is compelling, that encourages customer action, right? It's not trivial. So we're going to, in our example, we're going to use a landscaping company. Let's say we've got a bunch of lawnmowers and somebody's going to sell out a company. So here's our copy. Who wants to come up and record this commercial for us? You're the only person so far that I've had volunteer, even though it wasn't you.
I didn't really volunteer.
And actually, now that I think about it, go ahead and come on around here. I'm going to put it up on this screen because I want to show the recording software over here. So I'll let you hold this. I'll turn my lavalier back on. So this is that software I was mentioning earlier. This is Cakewalk by BandLab. It's now free for anybody who sign up for a BandLab account, and I think they will let you download the software. But you can use Audacity. You can spend a little money, and there's a ton of products out here for this, but this particular one is now free, and it's simply will record. Go ahead, check on that if you would.
Is my gate on?
So did you see, there's a leveler right here. As he talks, there's that green line that comes up. And whenever you record it, you want that to be as loud as possible without going into the red. right? And that's a visual representation of what we were talking about earlier when we were setting volume and levels. We want to get it as loud and as hot as possible without introducing clipping or distortion. So we will go ahead and hit the go button right here, and I'll let you go ahead and read your.
Landscaping equipment is selling to the highest bidder in an absolute auction on Saturday, July 21st. ABC Auction Company is selling the complete inventory of XYZ landscaping to the highest bidders. Don't miss this opportunity to name your price for mowers, tractors, trimmers, trailers, and more. The live auction is Saturday, July 21st at 123 Main Street in Dalhart, Texas, and starts at 10 a.m. View the complete inventory and learn more at auctioneerwebsite.com.
Might have done that before, but that's nice for a one take. Okay. So, I am going to export this out, and we're going to open it in Audacity here. That's graceful right there. I'm going to show you Audacity because it's a little easier to demonstrate that. Okay. All right, so here's his presentation. And I forgot to, give me a second here. We need to be able to hear that, don't we?
It helps.
It helps. Let's see. Ooh, I know. Let's do it this way.
An absolute auction.
Okay, so here's his recording.
Landscaping equipment is selling to the highest bidder in an absolute auction on.
Right? So here's our sound. But we've got a bunch of extra stuff here at the beginning, at the end. So we're just going to hit the delete key and delete all the extraneous stuff. Right?
Site.com.
Okay? Now, we're going to go through, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to normalize it. And what that does is it just looks across the whole audio file and it increases the volume and it does what we were talking about earlier and makes it as loud as possible without introducing distortion, right? So it should be significantly.
Landscaping equipment is selling to the highest bidder in an absolute auction on Saturday, July 21st. ABC Auction Company is selling the complete inventory.
Okay? But now look, let's say we need to hit 30 seconds and we're just a little bit long. So the first thing we're going to look at is how to make it shorter.
The highest bidder in an absolute auction on Saturday, July 21st. ABC Auction Company is selling the complete inventory of XYZ landscaping to the highest bidders.
Right there, right? We don't need that breath, so we're just going to delete it. So that saved us about a second.
Mowers, tractors, trimmers, trailers, and more. The live auction is set.
Okay, so here's another opportunity, and I do this quite frequently. Those little gaps between when we're enumerating the things that we're going to sell give us the ability to insert more words and not use any more time.
Wow.
So now let's look at it. And this is what it sounds like.
Bidders, don't miss this opportunity to name your price for mowers, tractors, trimmers, trailers, and more. The live auction is Saturday, July 21st at 123 Main Street in Dalhart, Texas, and starts at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. View the complete inventory and learn more at auctioneerwebsite.com.
Now, he did such a terrific job with that read that we're now under time and we don't need to take that anymore. But let's have fun with it. Let's say we wanted to hit 25 seconds. I'm going to change the tempo. And our length right now is 29.6. Let's say we wanted to hit 25, so we'll do 24.9.
Landscaping equipment is selling to the highest bidder in an absolute auction on Saturday, July 21st. ABC Auction Company is selling the complete inventory.
Still hear every word, right? Nice and clean. It didn't change the pitch at all.
Landscaping equipment.
But now, we're going to add another, I'm going to undo that because that's not necessary. These are all the effects. And just like we could add effects to our microphone, we can add effects to our recordings. And so I'm going to add compression on here.
Landscaping equipment is selling to the highest bidder in an absolute auction on Saturday.
Right. We can also add equalization if we want to. Let's add that EQ curve there.
Landscaping equipment is selling to the highest bidder in an absolute auction on Saturday, July 21st. ABC Auction Company is selling the complete
Sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Wow.
Sounds like you went into a recording studio.
Absolutely. That's nice.
Just use the free software that's available and a microphone and a recording interface. And so could you take this and just email it to the radio and have them put it on and play it? And they'd say, gosh, it sounds like you went into a studio. That easy. We did it right here in front of you. So we're going to take this and we're going to export it, put it on the desktop and say landscape final, save it as an MP3, and there it's done. Okay?
What version, what editor was that right there?
So that was Audacity. And Audacity is a small program, it's free, there's no junk that it installs with it, it's very nice. And most of the time I even use that to record. I had to use the other program to do the actual recording here because my equipment is prone to stage fright sometimes, and I couldn't get it to work on the recording, but it is a good solution to handle all of the recording for you. If you want something a little more powerful, that's what that Cakewalk by BandLab is there, and I will add that to the slide deck. Yep.
Can you download like a video into that to get the audio off of the video or not?
The question is, can you use that to extract the audio from a video? No, but it's not hard to do using a product called VLC. There's an open video player. It's called VLC Media Player, and it has the ability to just save the audio as a sound file from any video that it plays. You can also, just plug your phone into the recorder and play the video. If it's something on YouTube or something like that, you can record from a source. So you plug your phone in, hit the record on the audio, and just record the output of your phone. Would be a way to do it as well.
Okay.
It's fail-safe. So, all right. So there's our file.
Landscaping equipment is selling to the highest bidder in an absolute auction on Saturday, July 21st. ABC Auction Company is selling the complete inventory of XYZ landscaping.
Okay. So we've got our radio commercial done. Let's build a video. Like I mentioned, as auctioneers, we take videos of some of the things that we're selling, and I'm going to show you how to take those videos and we'll hit a 30-second post here. So Windows movie. Oops. Here, we'll just open it up. This computer is slow. When you add videos to Windows Movie Maker, it takes some time to prepare files. And I thought that's odd. I thought I had it. Let's close this out. I thought I had a version that was already prepared. Okay, it's going to take a minute. So what it does is it takes those raw videos and it converts it into something that's a little easier to process in here. And so it's gonna do that.
Aaron, do you have a preference of why you use the Windows version if you just always been a PC person and not a Mac person?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no experience on the Mac side, none at all. Never had cause to do it. So, this was bothering me because I opened it this morning and it showed that it was ready to go. All right, so I guess we can go through what we have here. So we're gonna show you how to take some video as well as put some still pictures in, because we don't always have video of everything that we're selling. Sometimes all we have is a nice photo, but we can still use that and make a video out of it. So all this is it has these videos that I've taken that are example videos of lawn and garden and landscaping stuff, and it's processing them, it's converting them. And so the first thing we're going to do is start cropping them down, right? So here's one, and I'm going to say that I'm going to come up to edit, and I'm going to trim it. Now, whatever video software you're using has the ability to set a start point and an end point in a video clip. And all I want to do is I want to find 10 videos and get 2 seconds from each one. And then we'll have we'll have 3 or 4 pictures as well. So you set the start point, and you find something that looks nice. And right here looks like that. That's a poor source video. Here, there we go. Right there's okay. So we'll have that as the start point, and our end point is going to be 9:56. Right? So I just take the start point and I just type in 2 seconds later. All right, and I save the trim, and so that's done. Let me find another one that's done processing. Well, that's a picture.
Will you have automatic transitions, or will you have to go back in and put them?
That's a great question. She's talking about transitions, and that's what we will just have it do automatic here. But I do like transitions as long as they're short. Some of them can get kind of crazy. So I just like a simple fade transition. This is saddening me that it's not, that these aren't already processed. Here's when it's done. So we'll do another trim tool on this one. Okay, so we will record a shot video as well, isn't it? All right, so I'm just going to start from the beginning, and we'll just give it 2 seconds, and we'll save that. And then we'll put that up here as well. We'll move our still pictures up, and I'm just dragging them and dropping. You guys understand what we're looking at on the right side is just a timeline of where things are in the video. Here's one that's done. All right, so I like this. It shows it turning. We'll pick it up from about right there, and we'll just make 93. So there's 2 seconds. We'll save the trim. Put it up here.
Basically, Aaron, all you did was start a new file, download all of this media, pictures and videos, put it on that timeline.
Yep.
And then you start playing with those
Right.
and manipulating to the final video.
Yep, you just start a new project, and you take that folder that has all of the media that you want to include, and you just drag it in, and it's going to go through and get it ready for you, and now I'm just editing what I want in there. So, there's one that's done. Here's a good 2 seconds. That's a good video right there. We'll go to 14, 5 there. Save it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we'll do one more. We're not going to wait on everything. We'll do 3 seconds. But you guys see how easy this is to pick the starts and the stops here. 30. We'll save that. So we'll do 3 seconds for each one of these. And I'm just going to delete the rest. All right, so we've got 1, 2. We've got 10 pieces here. So that doesn't work since I already started cropping down to 2 seconds each, didn't I? All right, we'll finish up here and do a couple more. Any questions about anything while we're waiting on me to finish this?
I got a question that's off the topic.
Yeah.
When you were editing that audio and you sped it up, you know, to fit the time frame. You know, when you hear those commercials where the voice guy at the end does
Disclaimer
the
at the end.
legal disclaimer.
Yep.
Is that how they do that, or is
Yeah.
that just a really talented voice?
No, they digitally speed those up.
You're no longer impressed with that, are you?
Yeah.
I thought that guy was awesome, didn't
I
he?
was really impressed with that guy until you told me that.
I'm gonna say that was kind of a buzzkill for sure.
There was the FedEx guy though. Remember him? There goes your second career.
Yeah.
Being a speed talker.
That's gonna be your biggest letdown of the entire convention. It may be mine also.
Need one more. Come on. There it is. All right, so we can get started here. You mentioned earlier about transitions. And what she's talking about is, I think this calls animations. Oh, turn that volume down a little bit. Cool things here. Most of them, like that, are annoying. And so, don't generally use all of those. Let me turn that volume down just a little bit more here. But I like a So we'll just say we're going to add that. There's the fade, and we'll make it a 1/4 second long each. We'll apply that to everything. Okay, so these pictures that are in here are a little too long, so I'm just going to highlight them, and I'm going to say that I want those pictures. There's the duration. These pictures need to be 2 seconds each. That's changed. And I like to alternate between pictures and videos since we have several, and so we'll just take these still images and we'll drag them around here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. And we've got one more here. We got 15. That is a horribly uninteresting video, but it'll work for now.
Not to the buyer.
Not to the buyer and not to the seller. How good does this look for your sellers, too? You're building them a 30-second video commercial with their auction.
You know, back to Wendy was asking about Mac. I want to tell you, I've done some just walking with the iPhone and then using iMovie on the iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
You can put together a pretty impressive little clip. In fact, I did one for an auction I was doing a while back, and somebody asked me, man, who'd you have do that video? And I'm like, man, I did it on the iPhone. And they were like, are you kidding me? But you do, basically, I mean, a lot of the same stuff of what you're doing here, you can do right there on the iPhone and iMovie.
And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little effect. I highlighted the pictures, and I added just an effect to it. And so now there's stills. You get a little zoom effect on it. Right? We can go the other way. I probably should have gone the other way, huh? So let's say instead of zooming out, I want to zoom in. So I just need to, oh, where are you? There it is. Now, it's a lot better, doesn't it? Okay? So we've got transitions and animations, and let's add our music. It's on our desktop. And stage final. Okay. So we were a little bit short. When you add transitions, it actually reduces the time. So I'm just going to take those pictures and make them about 2.5 seconds. Maybe I'm going to make them 3 seconds. See how to do it. 25 seconds, aren't we? In the interest of time here, we're gonna make it 4 seconds. So we can get it there we go. So we'll bring it to 7. Just a little bit longer. So all I'm doing right now is I'm taking the length of the pictures and making them long enough so that the video all matches the audio. And we can see down here the total length of the video is 29.96 seconds, which is just what I want. I'm gonna add an effect to the beginning, and I want it to be fade in from black. Motion fade. Where's in from black? Why? If you look at there, there's in from black. There we go. And then we want to fade out the white. Okay. Make sense? Now, what's the problem now? You hear a loud noise of the mower and not much from the audio. So we're going to say that we want the audio mix to be here. Now we can turn this up, because what we've done is we've turned the fader.
Landscaping equipment is selling to the highest bidder in an absolute auction on Saturday, July 21st. ABC Auction Company is selling the complete inventory of XYZ landscaping.
Okay, looking good, right? Let's add title. Oops, let's not add a title. Where's the undo? Oops, there we go. Okay, I want caption, because I don't like running clock with just words at the beginning or the end, and so they call that in this particular software caption. And what's our website? Auctioneerwebsite.com. Let's make that nice and big, a little bold. Drag that over, but I want to be at the end where he's talking about auctioneerwebsite.com, right?
Auctioneerwebsite.com.
Make it right here.
Can you make that a link on your video as well?
I'm not familiar with how to do that. I know that that YouTube has the ability to have hotspots in videos where you can click on things. I have not explored how to do that. But normal video files don't have the ability to include links.
Website.com.
All right, so we've got our website there, and you can tweak and play with this and make it the font that your company normally uses for your website and all of that. But here we go, right? In the course of about 17 minutes, we've got a 30-second video.
Landscaping equipment is selling to the highest bidder in an absolute auction on Saturday, July 21st. ABC Auction Company is selling the complete inventory of XYZ landscaping to the highest bidder. Don't miss this opportunity to name your price for mowers, tractors, trimmers, trailers, and more. The live auction is Saturday, July 21st at 123 Main Street in Dalhart, Texas, and starts at 10 a.m. View the complete inventory and learn more at auctioneerwebsite.com.
Right. Yeah.
If you wanted, I'm sure you could do it, how would you take the motorized sound out of the videos?
Take it out
So you
completely?
yeah, so you just have his voice.
That's easy. So over here in the, I think it's Project Audio Mix, I would drag that all the way to the right.
And just power over.
Yeah, all the way to the right would remove the sound from the videos. Now, that's free software. You guys will permit me. I'll show you what you can do with. I'll show one of my videos. If that's all right with everybody, I'll show you what one that I've done with. I use something called CyberLink Power Director, and we'll just pick one random. I picked one in Colorado. It was horrible auction, so.
Farm equipment is selling to the highest bidders at purplewave.com. Place your bids on tractors and tillage implements, combines and headers, sprayers and spreaders, forage equipment, livestock equipment, and air seeder, trailers, heavy trucks, grain handling equipment, and more. Bidding is open now. We'll sell each item without a reserve or minimum bid on Wednesday, May 9th, beginning at 10 a.m. Don't wait. Visit purplewave.com to get started. Purple Wave Auction. Straight, simple, sold.
So there's not a lot there that wasn't in the one that we just made, right? There's a couple of the ability to pan and zoom through some pictures. There's the ability to put that bar at the bottom. If you work hard enough, you probably could do it with Windows Movie Maker or with iMovie, but that software that I use for that it's $100, $80, $120, something like that. There are several different video processing packages out there. It's not hard, and like I said, we're making an audio commercial anyway, right? Might as well take that and spend some time and build a video about it. Now, is this something you're going to walk home and know how to do this in the time that it took me just now? Maybe not. But maybe you take 3 or 4 hours on a weekend or something and learn how to use the software. And then I think my time on a 30-second spot like this, it takes me about 15 minutes to handle, to write the copy, to record the audio, and then it takes probably 45 minutes to 90 minutes, depending on the video, to build that. So under 2 hours, and you've got a 30-second video commercial for your next auction, using free, essentially free, or relatively inexpensive software. Is that worth something to you?
What is the copyright loss if somebody else takes all the videography and stuff and you use that video, like say your own personal auction, do you have any type of copyright?
So the question is there copyright concerns with using video and in your own creation to advertise your auction? If it is something that you hire done, if you hire a videographer to go and take pictures or video of property that you are selling, I mean, check the agreement with how you hired that person, but my understanding is that is a work done for hire, and if you paid for it, if you enlisted the services of somebody, then that is a work for hire and you own that copyright. Make sure it's in contracts and all of that. Sometimes, when you hire a photographer to come take pictures of your family, that photographer is usually pretty proud of those pictures and wants you to, they need a copyright release, and so make sure you get that, depending on the agreement with your videographer. But that would be a prerequisite in my mind for hiring somebody, would be that I would own the work that was created from that engagement. Taking a larger question, can you just grab video off the web and use it, like stock photos, like you use that in a commercial advertising your company? Sometimes, right? There are stock video places, just like there are stock photo places, that you can buy the rights and the royalties to, or give them the royalties and the royalty free, and so you could buy that stock footage. Some video on YouTube is released under certain licenses that allow anybody to use it for whatever purpose. And so if you really wanted to build a commercial for your company and didn't want to spend any money, you could find some of those videos to use. But that's a great question, and certainly something to be worried about. Just like you can't just download any picture on the internet and use it for your promotional purposes, you can't just take any video and use it. But for most of us, when we're advertising our auction, that video is generated as a result of us doing work. We're hiring somebody to do work, and in that case, I think that's our video to use as we please. That's a great question. Other questions? Yeah.
Aaron, can you talk just a minute about voiceovers and, for instance, a few of us in the benefit auction segment of the industry use a voiceover as an intro. And finding the right music for that, what are the copyright laws concerning that? I just had someone help me do one, but he was a composer and gave me the rights to what he did.
That's a great question. So the question is voiceovers, and not necessarily voiceovers, but just introductory pieces that you create for your benefit auctions. That's a really great question. If you are using music for a professional purpose, commercial purpose, then yes, there are probably licensing issues that you need to worry about. I'm not going to try and pretend to offer you legal advice on that, but I would definitely check with somebody. Just like you can't grab and use photos and videos, you can't just steal music and use it for public performances. hiring somebody like on Fiverr to make something specifically for you would probably be the best route for that.
There.
Yeah, over here first.
Just in regards to what she was saying, I have little videos that I do, and I use a program. It costs so much a year, it's not very much, but it's Animoto. Animoto has a tremendous amount of music that you can use. And every time I post a video on YouTube, I have this Yahoo out there that pings me saying I have a dispute, you're using my music. And all I do is write back, I have an Animoto account that I pay for and this music's included, and the dispute's removed, which means that $80 a year, whatever I pay for Animoto to make videos, I'm good to go. Because I get pinged every time I make a video. You just do file dispute, copy and paste. I've got a standard thing. I just copy and paste it in, send it back, that's all that you do. On copyright.
That's a great point.
If
Yeah.
there's any truth, I've heard this, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard that if you just go grab like, you know, a popular song and use less than 8 seconds of it, that it's okay to put on.
So you're talking about like a fair use extension on something like that. I don't know the answer to that. I can't speak with any authority on that. I've heard similar things, that if you use only a portion of a song, then you can get by using a fair use. If you have a radio show, you're playing a song to talk about it, rather than to just play it for consumption. That's another example of a fair use extension. That's why one news channel can show clips from another news channel in the context of talking about what happened on that clip, right? So the fair use carve out in copyright, and I don't know the answer to how much of that you can use before you start getting in trouble. But if you don't want to invest in all of this stuff and you don't want to make your own commercials for one reason or another, you can. Voiceovers are incredibly cheap. And I mentioned it in passing earlier, a service called Fiverr, Fiverr.com. And that's what I use when I want to make commercials for my band. It doesn't make sense for me to do the voiceover work when I'm advertising my band. And so it's fun. Well, I did a St. Patrick's Day show, and so I found somebody with a cartoonishly leprechaun Irish accent to do the voiceover for my St. Patrick's Day show. And so it's easy on Fiverr, and it doesn't cost very much. I think I paid him $10 for a 30-second voiceover. I write the copy and I shoot it out and shot it back to me a few days later for $10. So it's really easy to have that done on Fiverr. Yeah.
Of all of the microphones that you've used today, the condenser microphone sounded the best in my opinion. Realizing that is you got to have the phantom power. It was great for your audio, and obviously the recording that Mr. Lambert did for us. Is that something you can use for auctioneering then? Because I noticed dynamic seems to be most of the mics that are used.
So the question is, can you use a condenser for auctions? Absolutely you can. You absolutely can. If you're a traveling big caller and you're taking your mic to different places, I'd be nervous about it, or at least I would carry it back up in case they didn't have the ability to support phantom power. But yes, absolutely. If you get a nice condenser, I've done auctions with this particular microphone. When I'm doing just an auction, I like to have a wireless mic though. So that's a different discussion. And of course, wireless microphone quality is a big deal as well. And so that's what I would look at if I was setting up for a benefit or something like that. I'd want to be able to walk around. But if you're at a podium and that's where you're going to be, then a corded mic is certainly better, in my opinion, because you don't have to worry about wireless dropout, the interference, and all of the battery use and all of the junk that comes with supporting the wireless system.
And with the wireless, that's going to be the dynamic microphone?
Not necessarily. Most of the time, probably, but you remember your wireless is always going to have a battery in it as well for the transmitter part, so it may or may not use a condenser mechanism. I don't know what's more common, honestly. I've never looked at it because you always have to put a battery in them anyway.
Thank you.
So, and but also don't think the mics that we have up here. This is certainly the best one. That mic I showed you earlier on the left side that had that little top guard that was sticking out. That's the one that I use for all of my voiceover work, and it's a dynamic one. And so it doesn't always mean that a condenser is better. In the context of wanting that big boomy voiceover, you like the dynamic because of that low frequency roll-off effect that it has. So anyway, but there are guys that use a condenser for voiceover work as well. So. Any other questions?
One more.
And this is a slide from the next presentation. I didn't have my contact information on that last deck, so if you want my email address, it is here. And I will, like I said, I will add that link to go to the Auctioneer audio slide as well. But I love talking about any of this stuff and happy to answer any questions always. Yeah.
I know you're not here to promote different brands of equipment, but the X-Airs, you know, there's like a 12 and 16 and an 18.
Right.
If you're just needing one to travel with to go do auctions, I mean, what's the differences in those?
My understanding is that the only difference is the number of channels that it supports, the number of inputs. So if I was an auctioneer and I wanted all this cool effects and technology, I would absolutely spend $250 on that X-Air 12. You might be able to get it cheaper if you call Jeff from Guitar Center Pro or whatever, but for that price, for what you get, it's a no-brainer in my mind. To have compression and equalization and gate and all of that stuff for $250 out the door, yeah, I like that.
Just to give you guys an example, that little box replaced what you would normally see.
Oh my goodness.
In a big venue. I'm talking about like a big mixer and board. I mean, it's, yeah.
You look at some of the pro audio gear that they used to roll around in big racks. These compressors used to be one rack compressors. You might be able to fit 4 of them in one rack space, right? And so it's about this much on one of those racks. And if you've got 16 channels, that's 4 of those. And then you have to have separate gates, separate EQs. You could fill an effect stack this high to support the number of functions that it does in one of those. It's amazing. Any other questions? I hope some of you stick around for the next presentation on internet auctions.
Well, in true fashion, we're in an audio and video class. So we have actually a couple of microphones, and you guys know that we always ask our speakers to sell a couple items. So we actually have 2 microphones and 2 cables that we're going to have Aaron sell. And by the way, these were donated by Guitar Center Pro, Jeff outside. So I've got some of Jeff's cards, and do me a favor, when y'all leave here, go by and say hi to Jeff and tell him thank you for the donations. So
absolutely. Oh my, it's a little hot. I've got so many effects on here, I don't know where it's set now. All right, you guys can hear me anyway, we'll go with that. We've got a digital reference microphone, the DRV-100. I'm gonna guess this is a dynamic microphone ready to plug in to your sound system. So you're getting a 20-foot XLR cable and a microphone. You tell me how to put $50 on it. How about $50 on it? 50, how about 25? But if you get 25, got it now. Here, 35. But you go $35 on it now. 45. But 45. But 55. But 55. But 65. But $75. 70. Even money. Let you in. Let's go. $70 on it. 70. 70. $65 now. 70. Sold at $65 over here. What was that? 131. 131. Thank you, sir. This is my cable. That is your cable. We're going to sell another one to you right here. Another one, how about $50 on it? You have a 25, which is $25 on it, 25, I've got it right here, now 35, I've got $45 on it, 45, now 55, now 65, I'll give you $65. Out 65, it's 60, even money, $60 on it, 55 here, $60 here, you got it now, 65. Put the 65 on it, the 65, but you see up here, got to be $65 on it, you're getting the cable and the microphone, 65, but 65, sold at $60, going to be $178, $60 to $178. Thank you guys so much for letting me come talk to you. We'll be right back in here in about 15 minutes, I think, and we'll talk about internet auction best practices.
Well, Aaron, thank you very much. Guys, I've got, if you need business cards for Jeffrey McDaniel, I've got them up here. Come see me, I'll hand you one. And listen, I'm going to tell you, I get nothing for promoting him, but I am telling you that literally everything I've bought from him has, his prices will beat anywhere you can find. So, not a bad deal.
He also ships it to you for free.
Yeah, that's right. He sure does. I'm going to take one of those cards.
I have 2 of those.
You have one on you? Do you get one of these?
I'll take a card.
Thank you. So I'm serious. Every time I bought from him, I'll get on the internet and look around, shop around, try to find a better price. Dude, I keep mine, and he does. He ships it right to that. Also, like I normally I wouldn't necessarily plug in.
Oh yeah. Here's 4 like that. Are those ones with the